Premier, welcome to 7:30 South Australia.
Thank you, Simon. Good to be here.
Why is a challenge your most public position, say over and above working with people to get a better plan?
Well, it's not. I've just been asked whether I rule out a challenge, and I don't, because if this is an inadequate plan, I won't sign up to it.
A challenge and the legal basis for it was the bulk of your ministerial yesterday. It has been the main public position that either you've put or you've allowed to be put out there. Why that rather than a more conciliatory approach?
No, that's not true. I spoke about three things. I spoke about a task force to analyse the plan, to make sure that we understood the science behind what was being proposed, because we said we signed up to a deal to make sure we had a healthy river. We'd be analysing that based on the best science we could get hold of.
Sure, I didn't say it was the only thing you were saying. I said it seems to be the main thing, or it is the main thing that you're saying.
No, I don't think it is the main thing I'm saying. The other thing that I mentioned is bringing people together in a range of ways. So I've been up and down the river where there's been, I think, a lot of common ground about us making sure that we do have a healthy river.
So, Premier, is your first line of attack, because there has to be a priority, is your first priority a challenge or something cooperative?
No, the first point of call is to make sure that we get the basin plan that we signed up for. That is, that the river gets what it needs to be healthy. Then the rest of the water is distributed equitably between the other users. That's what we signed up for. We only raise the question of the challenge if that doesn't prove to be the case. And I've said that I won't sign up to an inadequate plan. We've heard the Liberals say that any plan's better than no plan. I don't accept that. This is an historic opportunity for us to reset the rules of the basin, remembering we take 7% of the waters of the River Murray. 93% of it are taken by the upstream states. We put a ceiling on what we took out of the river in 1969, and all of the over-allocation has occurred in the last 40-odd years. Now, it is really simple to understand the problem. The problem is over-allocation. The solution is to put back into the river what has been inappropriately taken from it.
Does it not bother you that Barnaby Joyce, for one, has seized on this notion of a challenge and said, good? He said in Griffith this week, at a meeting our reporter Mike Sexton was at, words to the effect of, this is good for us because it will allow us to challenge the Water Act. Now that must fill you with fear that Barnaby Joyce thinks what you're doing is a good idea, or what you're proposing is a good idea.
It's just a bit of posturing. I mean, what we know...
His or yours?
No, his is a bit of posturing. We know that the upstream states are simply acting in their interests about trying to protect as much water as they possibly can to remain in their system. Look, they've taken too much out of the river. They want to protect every last drop that they can, and they will use any means they can. South Australia's interests and the national interests line up with the river's interests. And so this is what we will be advocating for during this 20 weeks. And should we not achieve our objectives there, we will pursue our rights as forcefully as we possibly can, including in taking matters to the High Court.
Is your basic position South Australia should not be giving up any more water than it already has? We've been asked to give up 100 gigalitres. We've already given up, through buybacks and various other means, 80. Is your position, in simple terms, no more than what's already been given up?
South Australia, the burden of adjustment should not fall on South Australia, given that we already made our adjustments in 1969. So we've accepted a low and sustainable take out of the river.
But is your position not a drop more? We've already given up enough, not a drop more. Is that your position?
Well, our position is there shouldn't be any extra burden on South Australians. If there are ways in which we can use the river more effectively and efficiently, we will make our contribution just as we always have. But we are not prepared to be using South Australian taxpayers' dollars. We're not going to have additional burdens placed on South Australians through changes or cuts to the allocations.
You're meeting with irrigators on Monday. Can the state afford there to be any difference between what its irrigators want and what its government is saying?
Well, no. I mean, I think we need to be on the same page, and that's what I'm trying to do, is to build a consensus. Now, there are some people out there that are trying to undermine that consensus, but I'm trying to build a consensus because I will be able to speak with more authority if I have this whole of the South Australian community behind me.